Today, we're diving into the 15 greatest musical rivalries of all time. Discover the reasons behind the bitter feuds between these stars, whether it's creative differences, a thirst to dominate the industry, or simply the desire to overshadow anyone threatening their stardom. Let's watch it. It's fascinating. Taylor Swift versus Katy Perry versus Billie Eilish. The world largely agrees that the singer of Bad Blood is one of today's biggest music icons. However, many argue that she's an insecure artist who often tries to sabotage other singers to maintain her stardom. These accusations date back to 2017 when Swift announced plans to release her entire music catalog on Spotify, 3 years after boycotting the streaming giant. Fans were thrilled, but others quickly pointed out that her decision to release the music on June 9th coincided with the debut of Katy Perry's much-anticipated fifth album, Witness. With Swift's entire discography competing against it, Witness failed to make the expected impact. Social media exploded with debates. Critics labeled Swift as petty and immature, while others praised her shrewd strategy. More recently, Swift sparked controversy again by releasing 3 new editions of her album, The Tortured Poets Department, just one day before Billie Eilish dropped her album Hit Me Hard and Soft. Eilish had been promoting her record for weeks, making it unlikely Swift was unaware of the timing. As expected, Hit Me Hard and Soft debuted at number 2, unable to dethrone The Tortured Poets Department. Fans accused Swift of deliberately undermining her rival to secure the top spot. Zayn Malik versus One Direction. Zayn Malik's departure from One Direction in March 2015 seemed amicable at first. He cited a desire for a normal life away from the spotlight. However, days later, he was spotted in a recording studio with producer Naughty Boy, sparking rumors of betrayal. Bandmate Louis Tomlinson publicly clashed with Naughty Boy on Twitter, accusing him of provoking fans with posts hinting at Zayn's replacement. In May, tensions escalated when Naughty Boy shared a photo with Zayn captioned, "Replace this," a clear jab at One Direction. Fans took it as the final goodbye. Zayn further distanced himself by removing references to the band from his social media and openly criticizing their music. While Zayn admitted he tried to maintain contact, his efforts went unanswered. However, tragedy mended some fences. After Louis Tomlinson's mother passed away in December 2016, Zayn reached out with condolences, marking the beginning of reconciliation. Though there's no talk of a reunion, the group briefly reunited in October at Liam Payne's funeral to bid farewell to their former bandmate. Lady Gaga versus Madonna. From the start of her career, Lady Gaga was incessantly compared to Madonna. The accusations of plagiarism peaked in 2011 with Gaga's release of Born This Way, which many claimed sounded too similar to Madonna's Express Yourself. Madonna fueled the fire by calling Gaga's music reductive in an interview. The feud intensified during Madonna's 2012 MDNA tour, where she performed a mashup of Express Yourself and Born This Way, ending with the phrase, "She's not me." Later, a leaked demo of Madonna's song Two Steps Behind Me appeared to target Gaga directly, accusing her of copying her work. Exhausted by the drama, Gaga denied the comparisons and praised Madonna's reign as the Queen of Pop. Thankfully, the rivalry eventually gave way to mutual respect. In 2016, Gaga tweeted admiration for Madonna's empowering speech at the Billboard Women in Music Awards, putting the feud to rest. Oasis versus Blur. In the mid-90s, the resurgence of British rock was at its peak, and these two bands were at the forefront of the revolution. Initially, both groups respected each other, but the Gallagher brothers, known for their explosive temperaments, began to resent being lumped together with other Britpop acts, a genre Noel and Liam deemed inferior to their own vision of rock. Tensions escalated into an all-out war when Blur's frontman Damon Albarn attended a party to congratulate Oasis on their number one hit, some might say. What he intended as a friendly gesture ended in disaster when Liam Gallagher insulted him instead of thanking him. In response, Albarn sought revenge by releasing Blur's single Country House. On the same day, Oasis dropped Roll With It. Thus began the infamous Battle of Britpop, a clash where Blur represented the London elite and Oasis symbolized the working-class spirit of the North. Blur won this initial round, selling 274,000 copies of Country House, compared to Oasis' 216,000 for Roll With It. Noel Gallagher, furious, made a shocking statement, wishing illness upon Blur's members. Oasis retaliated by mocking Blur's hit Park Life, rebranding it as Shite Life. As Britpop's popularity waned, so did the rivalry. By 2011, the feud was water under the bridge. Albarn and Noel Gallagher shared drinks at a bar, laughing off the past and bidding farewell to a rivalry that had captivated the media. Guns N' Roses versus Nirvana. In the early 90s, Axl Rose was a self-proclaimed fan of Nirvana, or at least he was until Kurt Cobain began openly criticizing Guns N' Roses in interviews. Despite the tension, Rose extended an olive branch by inviting Nirvana to open for Guns N' Roses on their tour with Metallica. However, Cobain, staunchly opposed to the glamorized rock lifestyle Guns N' Roses embodied, declined with biting remarks in the press. Angered by the rejection, Rose retaliated on stage with a fiery speech, attacking not only Cobain, but also his wife, Courtney Love. He accused the couple of substance abuse and even insinuated that their daughter, Frances Bean, might have been affected by their habits. The tension boiled over at the 1992 MTV Video Music Awards, where the bands exchanged glares and insults in a charged atmosphere. What could have been a legendary alliance became a bitter feud, ending only with Cobain's tragic death in 1994. Since then, Rose has refrained from speaking ill of Cobain, leaving the animosity as a relic of 90s rock history. Noel Gallagher versus Liam Gallagher. The feud between Oasis founding brothers likely began when a drunken Liam, unable to find the light switch, urinated on Noel's prized guitars and amplifiers. During their 1994 U.S. tour, their sibling rivalry played out on stage, with Liam altering the lyrics of Live Forever to mock Noel. The clash culminated in a tambourine-throwing incident that ended a Los Angeles show in chaos. Despite producing hits like Wonderwall, their constant bickering overshadowed what should have been their glory years. The feud reached new lows when Liam questioned the paternity of Noel's daughter, sparking another physical altercation. The final straw came on August 28, 2009, before a concert in Paris. A backstage argument led Noel to announce his departure from Oasis. For nearly 15 years, the brothers remained estranged, until this year, when they announced a reunion tour. While fans attribute the comeback to their mended relationship, others believe it's a calculated move to capitalize on their fame, with each brother set to earn over $70 million from the tour. The Beatles versus the Rolling Stones. From the moment Mick Jagger's band hit the spotlight, comparisons to the Beatles were inevitable. While the Liverpool lads sported clean-cut suits, the Stones cultivated a rebellious rock and roll image. The rivalry, though never hostile, sparked tension when Paul McCartney called the Stones a blues cover band, implying they lacked the talent to write original hits. Ironically, Lennon and McCartney wrote I Want to Be Your Man for the Stones in 1963, giving them a chart-topping hit. The real friction began after the Beatles disbanded in 1970. John Lennon criticized the Stones' album Their Satanic Majesty's Request as a knockoff of Sgt. Pepper's Lonely Hearts Club Band. Keith Richards fired back, calling Sgt. Pepper's rubbish and mocking the Beatles' live performances. Over time, the rivalry softened, with mutual respect prevailing. Mick Jagger exemplified this in 1987 by inducting the Beatles into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. Dave Mustaine versus Metallica. For Metallica's original guitarist, Dave Mustaine, alcohol wasn't the issue. It was how it transformed him. While James Hetfield, Lars Ulrich, and Cliff Burton grew rowdy after a few drinks, Mustaine became aggressive and unpredictable. The breaking point came on April 11, 1983. Without warning, the band informed Mustaine he was out and had already been replaced by Kirk Hammett. They sent him on a 4-day bus ride from New York to California, leaving him devastated. Fueled by anger, Mustaine vowed to outshine Metallica. He formed Megadeth, a heavy metal titan that carved its own path to success. While the rivalry was intense, Time healed old wounds. In 2011, Mustaine joined Metallica on stage for their 30th anniversary, bringing closure to a decades-long feud. Joey Ramone versus Johnny Ramone. These pioneers of punk rock stayed united in the music scene for over 20 years, but offstage, the relationship between the lead vocalist and guitarist slowly fell apart. Part of the tension arose because they had completely opposite personalities. Joey was a liberal hippie, while Johnny was a conservative who despised the hippie counterculture. However, the real rift between them occurred when they both fell for the same girl. During a 1976 performance at the CBGB Club in New York, Joey met Linda Danielle, and 2 years later she became his girlfriend. Meanwhile, Johnny, who barely spoke to his bandmate, kept his distance from her until they discovered they had common interests and developed a friendship that later turned into a love triangle. Joey's relationship with Linda started to deteriorate after his mother convinced him to buy her a cheap engagement ring, so they broke up soon after. To everyone's surprise, she went straight into Johnny's arms, and they married in 1983. Despite this personal betrayal, both musicians agreed to keep the band together with one unbreakable rule. Their personal lives wouldn't interfere with the group dynamic. For this reason, Linda stopped joining them on tours, and although the rockers shared the stage, they never spoke to each other during recording sessions or at any of the 2,000-plus concerts they performed before their separation in 1996. Axl Rose versus Slash. The duo that led Guns N' Roses to success faltered in 1991 when the guitarist collaborated with Michael Jackson on the solo for Black or White. The vocalist, whose past was marked by abuse, believed the accusations against the King of Pop were true and felt betrayed by his own bandmate. The tension escalated when Axl Rose replaced Slash's guitar solo in the band's cover of Sympathy for the Devil for the movie Interview with the Vampire. Instead, he used a solo by Paul Hughes, which deeply hurt Slash and made it clear that their differences were irreparable. The conflict reached its peak in 1996 when Axl took legal control of the Guns N' Roses name and relegated his bandmates to hired musicians. Feeling it was no longer his band, Slash left to pursue his own musical path, but Axl responded by calling him a cancer that needed to be removed. These words were especially painful for Slash, as he had just lost his mother to breast cancer. For years, Axl swore reconciliation was impossible, until 2016 when, against all odds, the two put aside decades of resentment and reunited to reform one of rock's greatest bands. Whether it was for the money or a genuine desire to bring Guns N' Roses back to the top, their fans are the biggest winners, enjoying the return of their epic concerts. John Lennon versus Paul McCartney. The duo that defined the sound of their generation kept their tensions private until Paul filed a lawsuit to legally dissolve the band in December 1970. At that moment, John Lennon broke his silence in an interview with Rolling Stone, stating that everyone was fed up with his bandmates' authoritarian attitude and that he would never forgive them for rejecting Yoko Ono. Paul responded through music with his 1971 song, Too Many People, in which he subtly attacked Lennon and mocked his ideals of world peace. Meanwhile, Lennon fired back with How Do You Sleep, belittling his former bandmate's career and even saying that the only good thing he had ever done was yesterday. The tensions grew, and at one point, Paul yelled at John, "Go to hell, Kojak," annoyed by his former bandmate's new American accent. Despite all the issues, by the late 70s, their relationship improved to the point where Paul regularly visited John in New York, and it seemed like the old friends might reconcile. However, that hope vanished on December 8, 1980, when 5 bullets fired by Mark David Chapman ended Lennon's life, putting an end to any chance of the Beatles ever playing together again. Steven Tyler versus Joe Perry. Since the early days of Aerosmith in 1970, the lead vocalist and guitarist earned the nickname Toxic Twins due to their wild lifestyle and frenetic performances. While this made them famous, the toll of living without control also strained their relationship. The rivalry grew during the recording of the album Night in the Ruts, when constant arguments between them caused costly delays and production issues. Their record label had no choice but to send them on tour to recover the lost money. Though they performed before thousands of fans and earned a fortune, During a show in Cleveland, they had a heated argument backstage when Joe Perry's wife got into a fight with bassist Tom Hamilton, which led an enraged Steven Tyler to intervene. Not understanding the root of the problem, he lashed out at Joe, accusing him of not controlling his wife. Feeling attacked and belittled, Joe couldn't take it anymore and told everyone he was leaving Aerosmith. Nearly 5 years passed before Joe rejoined the band, and they seemed to be in harmony again, recording hit after hit. However, tensions resurfaced in 2010 when Joe publicly criticized Steven's role as a judge on American Idol, calling the show a soulless publicity factory and even saying it was as bad as the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. While there may still be some animosity, at least they've learned to coexist in relative harmony for the sake of their concerts. Roger Waters versus David Gilmour. In 1979, the tense recording sessions for the album The Wall marked the breaking point in the relationship between these members of Pink Floyd. Part of the conflict arose because Roger proclaimed himself the band's leader, leaving Nick Mason, Richard Wright, and David Gilmour feeling like second-class members whose ideas weren't valued. Roger defended his stance by claiming the creative weight fell solely on him. According to him, he had to take on the role of creative director due to the lack of talent in his bandmates, even saying that none of the songs written by them would reach the level of his compositions, and that David Gilmour's lyrics were third-rate. Despite the massive success of The Wall, the friction between Roger Waters and the other members only worsened, especially during the album's promotional tour when Roger avoided his bandmates by staying in different hotels and barely interacting with them offstage. In 1985, the band suffered its final split when the guitarist decided to go solo and attempted to extinguish what was left of Pink Floyd, declaring that the band was creatively exhausted. However, David Gilmour didn't give up, and along with Nick Mason and Richard Wright, chose to move forward. Seeing his bandmates trying to resurrect the group, Roger took legal action to prevent them from using the name Pink Floyd. After nearly a decade of legal battles, in 1994, the remaining trio gained the rights to the name and released The Division Bell, letting their former bandmate know they were far from defeated. Bad Bunny versus Annual AA. A few years ago, Annual AA, the artist behind Amaness, made his competitive intentions clear during a Billboard interview. While he admitted sharing a unique relationship with Bad Bunny, marked by mutual respect, the rivalry was undeniable. Annual stated that every time Bad Bunny releases something major, he feels compelled to outdo him to prove who's the true king of trap. The tension escalated after Bad Bunny's concert in San Juan, where he declared, "I will always make music for you, and I'll always be Benito Antonio Martinez Ocasio of Puerto Rico." This seemed like a direct challenge to Anuel, who had previously advised other artists not to release new music while his album was dropping, to avoid overshadowing his work. In May, Anuel admitted their relationship was fractured, citing significant differences but avoiding specifics. The rivalry continues to dominate the urban genre, with each artist vying for supremacy. Maluma versus J Balvin. When two of Latin music's biggest stars hail from Medellin, you get the perfect recipe for a rivalry that dominated headlines. Fans and the media fueled rumors of animosity, accusing the artists of copying each other. Every new song release sparked accusations of plagiarism, turning Maluma and J Balvin into apparent natural enemies. However, J Balvin later revealed that the tension stemmed from insecurity and immaturity during their early days of global fame. Looking back, he realized the rivalry was driven by fear of competition with someone who shared a similar style. Time brought wisdom. J Balvin not only accepted Maluma's talent, but also praised him, even congratulating him for making history by performing for 50,000 fans in Medellin. The rivalry has since evolved into mutual admiration, leading to collaborations like Que Pena and Porfa, which quickly topped the charts. Now tell me, which of these rivalries do you think was the most intense? Leave your thoughts in the comments. Here are two options that you'll surely love.